All right, thanks again, folks. Let's talk about funding. Um, there's all different kinds of levels of funding, and I want to mention it. So you can have seed funding. Seed funding is when you take $10,000 out of your bank account or $5,000 or whatever and say, I'm going to go live on this for 3 months and I'm going to go work on building this product. Or I should say, I'm going to go work on talking to customers. Please, please, please talk to customers first. Um, you know, you have the three F's also: friends, family, and fools. And you may be able to get some money out of them. You have to be careful with this crowd though, because these are not sophisticated investors. Don't take a lot of their money. Okay, um, you know, take some, but don't take a lot because think about this. The last thing you want is you know the family Thanksgiving, you know, meal. And, the drunk uncle who gave you, $100,000 that you went and promptly lost. And then, you know, he's going to let everybody know what a disappointment you are. Okay. Be very careful. These are not sophisticated investors. Don't hit your family up for tons of money, unless if they've got tons of money, it's okay. But they're not sophisticated investors. Don't take a lot of their money. You can take some of it, but just be careful. Next level up is angels, angel groups, high net worth individuals. Um, this is a place where relationships are very important. So let me give you an example. I have lunch on Saturdays with someone who is an ultra high net worth individual. Now, he's a friend of my father's. He's not my friend. He's a friend of my father's. And one time, somehow somebody found his cell phone number and, he would get harassed. Somebody wanted $20 million for blah, 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 blah investment. And, don't go and harass these people. The point being is there are certain ways to get in with angels, angel groups, high net worth individuals. Angel groups are fairly simple, and angels as well. There's usually a defined mechanism to get in. Don't send them LinkedIn messages, okay? I am a tiny angel investor. I put a few shillings into this company and this company and this company, and I mentioned that on my LinkedIn profile. Every day I've got multiple people who want to be my contact and, are trying to shill their startup. Okay. Don't do that. The way to get in with, say, someone who's a high net worth individual is not to hit them up directly. Okay. The way you do it is you go to their circle of friends and their circle of business contacts and work it in that way. Because I'll tell you, because I know this from experience, they are much more likely to listen to their friends than they are somebody who just calls them randomly out of the blue, somebody who sends them LinkedIn messages. Okay. Now, angels and angel groups, there's probably a website that says, hey, come here, submit your stuff here, tell us about you. And if they then want to accept you, they will let you know. Okay. So there's that mechanism. Next stage up is the series investments. This is where you hear like series A, B, C. You may also hear some bridge loans, those kind of things. Venture capitalists. They will typically, venture capitalists are people, are organizations. I don't say they're people, they're organizations. They're dealing with insurance companies, retirement groups. In effect, they're high tech money managers. Okay. And so for a investment, they are looking to take some percentage ownership in your company. Okay. There's also venture debt. Venture capital is probably the most expensive way to go get money. Venture debt, where you can, pay them back at some, high percentage. And you'd still have to give up some amount of equity, but typically there's much smaller as long as you pay them back. Those are other, potentially good deals. Venture debt is nowhere near as expensive as venture capital, so just be aware of that. And, depending on who you are and what you're doing, it might be a good thing. If you're a fan of Shark Tank, Kevin O'Leary, Mr. Wonderful, he loves venture debt deals. And they're not necessarily bad deals. They can be, but they could also be good deals. Also, you can get customers to invest. If you have a good enough relationship with a large enough customer, that's how we got our first startup off the ground. Is we actually had the customer invest the money, and they got an ownership piece. And so when we were sold, the customer got a good little payback on their initial investment. Now, you obviously have to have a very good relationship with that customer, so you're not like doing it for everybody, but it is an option. Okay. Valuations. Okay. So this is all over the map. Can be done based on the work done. How much work have you done? What are comparables at the same stage? Have you done some sales? This would be a competitive analysis. And then also you need to think about what I call, Wall Street versus Silicon Valley investing. Silicon Valley investing is basically saying, hey, you're going to get money for where you're at now, plus what's the trajectory that you're on. Wall Street investments are typically going to say, what are you worth right now? And that's all you get. Okay, so if you're high growth, you're not necessarily getting any value from that high growth part. You just need to be aware of that. I've also heard this called East Coast investing versus West Coast investing. Be aware. You may hear of something called Vision Fund. It's out of the Asia area, South Korea, Japan. It's kind of distorted things in the recent past due to the fact it has $100 billion to go put into use. So it's kind of distorted some things. Be aware that, you may not be worth the distortion. And then also understand economic downturns. Economic downturns tend to affect venture. Okay. So look at it this way. If things are roll back a couple of years, things are going great, okay, I've got $100,000 that I'm going to go invest in because that's my excess from the stock market, okay? So I could justify a valuation of $100,000 or $1 million or whatever. Well, you get an economic downturn, I got 75,000 now, so I can only give you 75,000. That may be all you're worth because that's all somebody will pay. Understand that. Just be aware. Understand also, are you fundable? Okay. If you're a body shop, if you're a bunch of database administrators working together, that's not really fundable because each incremental increase requires a person. If a person is not working, you're not making money. And so body shops, things that are people based tend to not be fundable. So understand that a consulting company, therefore, is not really a fundable enterprise. So what is fundable? Something that's really high margin. If you can make a widget for 10 or 12 cents and you're selling it for 99 cents, boy, that is a high margin business, and it has got the look of being fundable. Is it repeatable? Okay. Can I make some sales without having to go and spend a lot of energy on it? Is it protectable? Is there a moat around it? Have you have you protected your intellectual property enough? In the startup world, we tend to call this, we're looking for hockey stick type growth. Okay. Is there a spot in here where, I've got new board member that opens up a door. I've got a new advisor who opens up a door where instead of getting a 5% year over year growth, I'm up to a 55% year over year growth. That's when you get to that. Once you make that turn where you're getting the high growth, then you can become fundable. Also, another interesting thing is, is somebody fundable? And this is a wild one. FOMO, fear of missing out. Okay. For example, I looked at things like Uber and Lyft and Didi and said, boy, those really aren't fundable because they really require um, they require drivers, and drivers are people. And those aren't really fundable things. I mean, it's like funding a consulting company. I don't understand why you're doing that. Yet, because enough people got excited about it, it took on its own snowball. And, it became this fear of missing out. And so it just sucked in people to work on it or to invest in it, even though, it's barely a break even. Those are just barely break evens at this point, and we're 10 years at this point into the Lyft revolution, the Uber revolution, and we don't really see that. If you look at their stock price from when they've gone public, they really haven't done that well. So, um, but fear of missing out, FOMO drives a lot. All right, so that's kind of all the thoughts on this one. Thanks for coming back by.